And I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time dealing with water as I worked for Assemblyman Kevin Jeffries, who was a part of the bipartisan, bicameral commission or committee to deal with water legislation. What I came to learn was a few things. Number one was that all of the various different constituencies, a lot of people think it's just north, south, central, and quite frankly, it's actually even greater than that. There's Northern California, Southern California, Central California. There's even, when it comes to the Delta itself, Northern, Southern, Central Delta. There's the various different constituencies. There's builders and developers. There's the farmers. There's the environmentalists. And it's important to understand that all of these varying constituencies have various differing concerns and things that they want to see happen. In order to deal with this, we've got to deal with two primary issues. One has to deal with storage, the other has to deal with conveyance. And that's because in the state of California, the water comes down or the rain falls in one area of the state, but a large percentage of the people live in another area of the state. And a big industry that depends on water, which is the agricultural industry, is in a third part of the state. So how do we address all of these issues? Any compromise that we have has to deal with three primary components. The first has got to be storage. In times of drought, first of all, let me just tell you, there is no shortage of rain. We do not have a shortage of rain. What happens is we have no way to capture most of that water when it falls. That water basically just runs off. Any compromise that we have has to include significant investment in above ground storage. This bond that was just passed this past year has about $3 billion of it is set aside for storage out of an $11 billion bond. That is not enough. We need more storage. The second thing that we have to look to is then, and only then, in working with folks from Northern California, can we deal with the issue of conveyance. Conveyance is basically getting water from one place to another. Once we have significant enough storage, then people can feel comfortable to say, okay, we can allow some water to go as long as we know that our water rights have been protected here in Northern California. I think that the third has to do with conservation and how we regulate it. We cannot require onerous regulations on people that have no real measurable impact or no real ways of measuring how we implement these things when it comes to conservation. Conservation is a part of the solution, but it is not the solution, especially as our population continues to grow. So by dealing with these three things, by pushing storage, by including significant increase in storage, by looking at conveyance, and supporting conservation, I think we can help to address water issues in California. There is one constituency that stands in the way of a reasonable compromise, and that is the environmentalist community. We have to understand that these are the folks who stand in the way of water storage. They're the ones who are working to implement these overly burdensome rules when it comes to conservation, when it comes to saving water. Their whole goal, quite frankly, is they don't want development, they don't want people to move to California, they don't want communities to exist. Their goal is to stop development, stop growth of not just our community, but of our economy. Until we deal with this significantly, how shall I say, out of control constituents group who has a disproportionate level of control in Sacramento and quite frankly nationally, we're going to have challenges. We've got to take on the environmentalist wackos. We've got to take them on, and we've got to tell them that you will no longer control water and water policy in the state of California. It's about the people. That's what we need to be protecting. Instead of our Attorney General suing the citizens of California, suing the cities and the counties and suing the employers of California because he doesn't feel they're complying with environmental regulation, why not sue the federal government for overstepping their bounds, for coming into California and telling us what's supposed to be important to Californians? That is a clear violation of our 10th Amendment rights. We need to stand up. We need our governor to stand up and say that we'll have no more. We need our attorney general to stand up and say we'll allow this no more. We need our legislators, every single one of them, to stand up and say, you know what? We are a state. We have rights. What you have the ability to do is outlined in the Constitution. The rest of it, leave it alone. And quite frankly, that will only happen when we, the citizens, we, the people of California, step up and make our voices heard and say, no, we don't want you meddling in the affairs of our state any longer. one can look at my record here in this community for over 15 years, not just as a resident of the community, but as an activist, a person who's worked on a myriad of issues, whether they be based on traditional family values, whether they be based on education, they be based on taxation, whatever the issue is, I've been there, I've been active. I have been a strong and effective voice for the citizens of Sacramento. That's the sort of voice and sort of elected official and sort of assemblyman that I want to be in the California State Legislature. Someone who's not just a good vote, but someone who's going to be an active and effective voice for the citizens of the 5th Assembly District.